Hello, happy Monday. I'm going to be talking a little bit about like the life of a veterinary student, specifically in didactics. I'll probably do another one in the future about what life is like on clinicals because that's like a whole nother world. But someone was asking me like literally what is just like your day-to-day life like, and I realized a lot of people who aren't in the veterinary field have literally no idea what vet school is like. The biggest thing is I think some people don't even realize that it's actually 4 years. Some people have asked me if it's 2 years, which there's 2 years of classes and then 2 years of clinics. At my school specifically, most schools do 3 and 1, just the way their curriculum's laid out. But I guess first things first, for first year, first day of school, again, a lot of schools are different with the way they do things, so I can only speak from my experience at Mizzou. But the first thing we did for school the night before school started was go and pick out your seats. Yes, we're like 22, 23 years old starting veterinary school. Seats are just very important. I can't tell you why, but the seat you're picking is the seat you're staying in for every class for the next 2 years, every day, all day long. So my friends and I literally went out, tested out different seats in different rows, and maybe even threw a sweatshirt over the seat so that it would look like it was taken if we weren't the first ones there in the morning. But you're basically in class like 8 to 5 all day long, every day. You have a bit of class in the morning and then a bit of lab to like mix it up in the middle of the day with your lunch break, and then after that is like more class till 5 p.m. But the way Missouri does it, like I said, is a two-year program. So we start in like the end of August, like all normal schools, but we do go through the end of June. So like literally whatever that Friday ends up being, like June 30th, which is 2 months longer than like normal school, but it gives us an extra semester with the first like 2 years combined. So an extra 4 months, an extra semester of classes so that we can start clinics a semester early. So that's like something you have to think about if like you really want to go to school that long. I honestly didn't know that when I was applying, but I went for it. So, and it honestly wasn't bad. The next thing that's like different about Mizzou is you can get in-state tuition after the first year if you're an out-of-state student. So that ends up saving you about $30,000 a year for your your second, third, and fourth year. So definitely worth it. All you have to do, it's a lot, but you have to make $2,000 of like taxable income. So I just got a job at Ace Hardware because I had worked there all throughout undergrad. The managers were always really understanding, always let me take off if I needed to. They let me go home for breaks because they knew that was the only time I could see my family. And they were just really understanding about everything. So that's definitely something you need to think about. Some people can't handle having a job in school. I'm one of those people that always has at least one job, so it wasn't like that big of a deal for me. But you can always just work through the summer, and that's usually enough time to make the $2,000. The other big thing is you can't leave the state for more than 2 weeks during the summer. So that's not as hard since we only have a 7-week summer, and because we go to school through the end of June. But so I took my last test and then I just jumped on a plane to Miami and went on a 7-day cruise with my best friend. And after that, I like went and saw other friends back in the Northeast / my parents, spent 1 day at the beach, and flew back, drove to get my puppy, and then literally spent the maximum amount of 14 days. The rest of the summer I just like worked, trained my puppy, and hung out. But it really wasn't that big of a deal to me to only have 7 weeks of summer. So that's another thing that you have to look into when comparing schools of what it's going to be like. The other thing that's different about Mizzou is we are on a quarter system. So we have 5 quarters a year because we do have the extra one in May and June. And we take about 4 to 5 classes depending on the quarter. These are like 8-week blocks. So again, that's something very different than most undergrads. my undergrad, which was WPI, had 7-week blocks, so I was used to taking multiple tests a week, multiple quizzes a week, having like huge exams every 2 weeks. Some people are used to having huge exams once a month maybe, or even like a lot of time to prepare for stuff, but this is like Mizzou is very fast paced, and I saw some of my classmates struggling to adjust to that, plus like the literal insanity that is vet school just on top of that. But they like implemented a slower track system if you're someone who does need that extra time to adjust to not only the harder curriculum but the faster pace of like testing schedules. That being said, the normal schedule, like you start off with your basics, so like anatomy, phys, cell bio. They threw in microbiology and neurology, and like for anatomy lab, the way we did it was like A and B group, so you're assigned to the same animal cadaver, and the A group would go in one day for the first 2 hours, dissect everything, and then the B group would come in for the last hour, and you'd show them what you dissected and they'd learn, and then the next day you'd flip-flop, and that way you're not always the one dissecting, because that's a different type of learning than just looking at the like the revealed structures that you found, and then you like flip-flop which day you get more of a longer lunch break too. For micro, the teacher would lecture a bit about each of the slides in your box for the first however many minutes, and then you'd have the chance for the rest of the class to go over the slides yourself, learn how to use your microscope, etc. Call the teachers and helpers over for that. And then clubs are also a big thing. There's one for literally whatever you could imagine, and people are literally making new clubs every year if we, for some reason, don't have one that you're interested in. So I was a member of the shelter medicine club and the emergency club, and those are like the big small animal ones, and they would have meetings every so often, usually either on a lunch break or for dinner. Literally, that is your saving grace. It is free lunch or free dinner, and there were some weeks that there are so many like free lunch and learns from companies or clubs that like I didn't have to make dinner for the week, so saving money. And while that's like more time at school, like it was relaxing to just like not have to cook dinner, and you could just like have a good meal and listen to something that you're interested in. But let's see, that's like probably all I have to say for like first year. Second year, you get more into like the ology, so like virology, bacteriology, pathology, that stuff. And at Mizzou, we do things, I don't know, I've like compared it to other schools and my friends at other schools, and everyone does the classes differently. So like we go through all of that, learn like all the diseases, bacteria, viruses, like in their separate classes, and then farther into second year we get into like small animal medicine. So we'll have a class just on like cats, dogs, etc., and kind of relearn those same bacteria, same diseases we went over in path, but specifically like go over them for small animal medicine, which ones specifically pertain to those. Then we have like equine medicine, food animal medicine, and all that kind of stuff. So I know some other schools like do a tracking system where you don't necessarily have to take all of the classes or rotations. Mizzou makes you take all of it, so everyone in class is all together every day until you hit the clinic floor, and then you start going on your separate rotations from each other. But I think that's it for like the school part of it. Like outside of school, I would finally get home from leaving for school like 7:15, 7:30. I'm home by like 5:30. You could go home for lunch, I guess, if you lived close enough. I live like 15 minutes, so like to drive 15 minutes there and back when you only have an hour just like wasn't worth it for me. So I just like picked a seat in my favorite study room, and that's where I would chill. But once I was home for the day, I'd like take 30 minutes to an hour for myself, watch TV, just like hang out, de-stress, not even like unpack my bag. I'd have some dinner and then I'd study for the rest of the night. I am someone who does not do well on little sleep. Like absolutely, I become the most miserable person in the world. Why did I sign up for vet school? I don't know, but so I would study until like 10, and then that would be it for me. I like can't retain information past 10. So, and then I'd be asleep by like 10:30, 11 was like a wild night for me. And then I'd wake up in the morning and do it all over again. But the weekends, I also like, you go spend a little time in the anatomy lab. The histo slides, thankfully we have like a program that we can look on the slides digitally on our laptop, so you didn't have to go into lab for micro. But I did have like a fair amount of weekends where I could like go out one night with my friends, or just like take the night off from studying, because if not, I would have gone crazy. I did partially go crazy because I did study too hard, but you find your groove and you find like what methods of studying work for you, especially if you're someone who didn't need to study that much in the past. So they like testing schedule, also not sure how other schools do it, but the way we did it is like, so all of our classes would start at 8 a.m. So if we had a test in any class or a quiz or anything, we would go in at 7 a.m. All of ours are online on a lockdown browser. So we have like these computer labs. For like the classes that are newer than us, they started downloading lockdown browser on their own computers to make it a little easier, but my class still takes it in these set computer labs on lockdown browser. So you like, it wouldn't interfere with all of your classes for the day. Like usually in undergrad, like the test would take place during your time for that lecture, but of course we need to pack in all the information we can. So the days would get even longer on test days. So you'd have to like come in at like 6:30, get ready to be sitting down for 7 to 8 for your test, and then still have a 9-hour class day. We also don't really have final weeks at Mizzou. Because you're taking so many tests, sometimes it's just the last test in the series. It's not always cumulative, but you are going to class all through that last week of the 8-week term. If one of your classes has the final on like Tuesday, then you don't have that class for the last 3 days, but you still do have the other classes that you haven't taken that last test for. So that's another thing you have to prepare for, because you do not have a full week of nothing and that you have all that extra time to study for. You still have your normal class load. You're just taking finals in the morning before you go sit in class all day. So that was another big adjustment for some people. Again, WPI was like that. So we went to class the whole week and finals didn't really exist for us, so it wasn't an adjustment for me. But I hope that answers some questions. Again, everything's kind of like Missouri specific. I don't know how other schools handle their curriculum or like schedules of when they start and end school, how many tests they have in that. But if you have questions, let me know, and I will make a video of like the second 2 years, like on clinics and how we pick our schedules for that and all that good stuff. But have a great day, everyone.